Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Daily Objective. And today is everybody's favorite day of the week, the Thursday Collective episode. And we are a full house of sorts today. We've got Mark Pellegrino, who you might know from TV Talk and other shows.
What's up?
And we've got...
You know what that means in England?
What does it mean in England?
I think it's dirty. I don't think it's proper.
Oh, now I know I got all those dirty looks the other day when I was in England, and I'm like, "Hey, peace, man. How you doing?"
Well, I think it's more like this.
Yeah.
Okay. And we've got returning scientist, cosmopolitanist, studier of the cosmos.
Cosmetologist is what you're reaching for.
The doctor.
Yes, it's me. Hello.
Amanda Maxim.
Yo, what's up?
I picked up the Italian gesture as well.
This is very good.
Hey. All right. So listen, guys, I know we like to joke around and have a good time, but we got something serious to talk about. The upcoming election season, which...
No, that's not serious.
It's not.
Is that serious? No,
I thought it was.
We're still in the vein of humor.
Yeah, no kidding.
Okay.
So Joe Biden reportedly told his former boss, Obama, that he wants to rerun, right? He wants to run for re-election, which I thought is just like a normal thing people expect. Like, when has a president ever retired after one term? Has that literally ever happened to either of you?
Probably it has happened, or maybe they've been shot before the second term or something.
Ooh, dark.
Yikes. Yeah, I'm trying to think of anyone who has retired after first term, and I can't think of anyone offhand who did it. The only one I could think of who intentionally retired was after two terms, and that was Washington. Or he could have been president for life, right?
Yes.
So he intentionally retired.
The inverse,
into, like Millard Fillmore or something, is probably the answer.
Millard.
Yeah.
Millard Fillmore. I just know because he is a president, and that I know nothing about, so it's possible he retired.
Then he was probably very good, right? No.
Yeah, if you've never heard of him, there's a good chance he didn't do that much damage. But speaking of damage, the inverse of Washington would be, I guess, Franklin Roosevelt, who did 4 terms before he died of old age. Like, he just would not leave.
He didn't die of old age. He had a stroke in office, so he could still be president. Going. Yes, he could still be president.
Wow. Okay. So Joe Biden told Obama, which, when I saw this, I was thinking this is going to be like a joke. Someone's The Onion is making, Biden thinks him and Obama are still in office. And he's telling Obama, no, this is a real story, though. Biden told Obama reportedly that he's planning to run for re-election. So I guess that answers the Democrat ticket, who's going to be the candidate there, the current president. And then, but the real question is, who will be the candidate for the Republicans? There is sort of a battle for the soul or lack of soul of the Republican Party at this point, right? You've got the Trump era either ending or doubling down, or something's going to happen. They need to decide, who are we? Who's going? And I guess we'll get the answer as the announcements come in of who's running for president, and then how the primary debates go. Maybe that'll start to clarify what are Republicans even running on at this point. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, yes. I still find it hard to believe that Biden will be a viable candidate in 2024. A lot can happen in 2 years, and with his degraded condition and the speed with which it's happening, I think we see not just gas, but pretty sad behavior, public behavior on his part. He's very confused and oftentimes goes off on a sort of a babbling rant like I'm doing right now. So I don't know that he'll be in the condition to run in 2024. And clearly Kamala Harris is not a viable candidate. I don't think anybody would vote for her. So, maybe Hillary will step up to the challenge. She's chomping at the bit to be president of the United States. And I think the Democrats are chomping at the bit to get rid of Biden. But who's the viable one? I thought it might be a Bernie Sanders, to be honest with you. I think he's sort of taking over the leadership the Democrats have been avoiding him like the plague and intentionally marginalizing him, but they might not be able to soon enough. He picks up enough of the base that maybe that will work. What do you say to that before we get to the Republicans? Is that just crazy?
It's not crazy. And I was thinking maybe because the squad, AOC and her friends got elected during the Trump era. Someone like Bernie is not seen as a fringe leftist anymore. Maybe he's seen as more of like an old lefty, socialist, democratic socialist, not really socialist, more like a more mixed economy, but more in the big government direction. Whereas the squad, AOC and Ilhan Omar are like, they bring the racial stuff in, the feminist stuff in. They're bringing in the new left into the Democrat Party in a way that someone like Bernie might be seen as hampering, if anything.
Why don't you think Kamala Harris could run? She's a lady.
I think she's despised by pretty much everybody. I think she almost has a lower approval rating than Congress, which is really hard to beat. But she's managed to, or maybe I'm just listening to one side a little bit and not seeing what MSNBC is saying about her. But as far as I'm concerned, and from many of the sources that I use, she's not a serious individual, and she doesn't come off as a serious individual. So I don't think they would be banking on her, to be honest with you. I think who I think would be a great run is Tulsi Gabbard. I think she would be an amazing Democratic candidate, but I think she skews too far right for the base. But I think she could win if she were the candidate.
She is seen as like the old type of Democrat, which is not exactly anything close to what we would like. As she's nowhere close to a capitalist, but yeah, she's become a centrist because of the moving Overton window. She's become like a centrist. She's got some of the things she says sound like Republican talking points these days. Like she thinks big tech is censoring conservatives, and really, well, she believes that Google censored her, and maybe Google did. And censorship being, I'm using the word loosely, but like during one of the primary debates or after it, a lot of people were Googling Tulsi Gabbard, and the results were like not showing up. And she believes that Google purposely prevented her from getting exposure because they preferred, let's say, Pocahontas, I forget her name, but they preferred like Google, the people in big tech. So she's an anti-big tech person. So sadly,
I think it's Sacagawea is what you're reaching for.
That's it. Yeah, that's exactly right. You're correct. But yeah, it's sad that these days being anti big corporation makes you a Republican. But that's kind of how she is. She's and she's not on board with the woke, right? She's not into this AOC approach to the world, as far as I can tell. So yeah, it would be interesting to see her running. I think Democrats reached for the center by having Biden be the nominee. I mean, again, not that Biden is my wet dream, but he in terms of who else was running. Yeah.
Well, but he's pretty much shown himself to be more or less a puppet for what the left wants. So he's not putting the brakes on anything that the left is bringing to the table, as far as I can tell.
Can you expand on that? That he's
sure. He seems to be a proponent. Well, he seems to be a proponent of the Green New Deal. I mean, he reversed even some of the good things that Trump did by executive order, and halting the leases, the selling of leases on federal land for fossil fuel use. All that stuff is very retrograde, very much in the left-wing camp, very much appealing to the base of the left. That's all in for this reformation of our economics based on this idea of renewable energy that doesn't fit with reality. So he hasn't shown himself to be a centrist as far as I'm concerned. And I think the support for him would be so tepid. I think it's falling away. What is his approval rating now? It's in the low 40s or high 30s. It's below Trump. And when Trump's was probably the lowest of any president, at the time. Now I think Biden has even surpassed that. That's one of his sole achievements, is beating Trump for the lowest approval rating of all time. So I think at the very least, before we even talk about Republicans, we have a situation that is just ripe for a third party upstart to come into to come into their own. I think libertarians have been proposing the idea of a Justin Amash, Tulsi Gabbard team, which I think would be an excellent team. I doubt that whatever their primary process is would allow for that sane a team to be elected. But that would be certainly something that I think could challenge anything on the establishment.
Yeah, the center is underrepresented, to put it lightly. People that are not on board with this like new right Trump type of republicanism, and they're definitely not into the woke, anti-free speech, or just like this crazy like a crazy environmentalist New Deal, Green New Deal, and all of that. They're not on board with any of that. They see both parties as losing them. And that, I remember Brett Weinstein, the podcaster scientist, he wanted to get like a couple of like a right-leaning guy and a left-leaning guy or girl like to run together. And he was hoping to disrupt the system in 2020. Yeah, that's when the election was, 2020. But that never ended up happening. It would be interesting to see if finally we've reached a point in the first time in 160 years or however long it's been when like a third party could become a new winning party, which was the Republican Party at one point, right? Wasn't Lincoln the first Republican president?
Yes, but they ran Fremont before they ran Lincoln. But they were definitely Whigs with the Whig Party was, I think, the party at the time, and they're Whigs with the abolitionism sort of mixed in their philosophy. But he was the first Republican president, for sure. But I think we're living in unprecedented times, man. Normally you'd say the incumbent would run again, but given his mental condition and given the way in which his popularity is falling, I don't envision anything happening that will lift that up, save some catastrophe that he could somehow use to cohere the public behind him. So I don't know that Democrat ticket is so stable. And Trump is also the wild card too, right? I mean, we don't know how many Republicans are going to support him now in the face of DeSantis, who I think is making moves in Florida and attracting the attention of the Republicans. I think they would see him as a far more viable candidate than a Trump. He appeals to the base, and he may appeal to those people who are falling away from the left and trying to be more centrist. Even though DeSantis doesn't come off as a centrist, he's a hell of a lot more centrist than a guy like Trump appears to be. And so I think he would appeal to a lot of the people who are flying off the establishment, right? And my only fear is that a guy like Trump who's egotistical enough to form his own party, like he's trying to form his own social media platform. Why not do what Theodore Roosevelt did and form a new bull moose party to try to, which will wind up, of course, electing the Democrat. But why not do that? I think he's capable of almost anything. You can't predict what a crazy malignant narcissist is going to do in any moment.
That's true. All right, let's read a few super chats, shall we? Marilyn
Sure.
with $2 says senility should be a consideration. Apollo, thank you. Marilyn again says Roosevelt died in the company of his mistress. Well, at least he died doing what he loved.
We also know the last words of Roosevelt, like we know the last words of John Adams, right? John Adams said "Liberty forever," which I think is a great way to go out. Roosevelt said, "I have a tremendous pain in my head," and then he died.
Wow.
Sorry.
Ah, that's beautiful. Enric with $4.99 says Lyndon Johnson, whose Vietnam War was unpopular, declared he wouldn't run for re-election. Oh, I did not know that. So Lyndon Johnson replaced Kennedy like by default.
Oh, that's true. Yeah. He replaced Kennedy. Then he was elected in 1964. and could have, because he served, the term from vice president, he could have served that second term from 68 on, but decided not to run. That's right, because of the unpopularity of the Vietnam War.
So have you heard the tapes of LBJ? Like, apparently they recorded all the phone calls that went out of his desk. And if you're not familiar, you can just, like, right now, everybody that's watching, Google LBJ ordering pants. And you can listen to him ordering pants over the phone.
Is it crude and racist and disgusting?
It's crude. I don't think it's racist. He's talking about
that was the civil rights discussion he had, where he said these N-words are going to vote for me for the next 100 years.
And he used that word quite often. What amazes me is that, and I guess it's because the psychological establishment, the psychiatric establishment, is predominantly leftist. They love to psychoanalyze people on the right, and that's great. I love seeing these psychological profiles of crazy people on the right, but they never do it to people on the left. And Lyndon Johnson was one of the most weird, evil types that I think he would be perfect fodder for psychoanalysis. He used to take his penis out in the middle of meetings. And just
why? Just because it's there?
Because you should see him also. There's pictures. Yeah, I guess he's putting a punctuation point on the meeting. But he also used to do a thing called the treatment. If you look at pictures of him leaning over people and people leaning back, he would get into their space to try to intimidate them. And he was just a vicious, philandering, a crude, horrible, horrible man. Why aren't they psychoanalyzing that guy?
You could, because there's hours and hours of footage of his phone calls, including him ordering pants, which is a good window into LBJ.
Wow. Now I got to look it up. But yeah, it's also, I would think it's kind of unprofessional of, like, psychologists and psychiatrists who took an oath, they've agreed to be professional. And then for them to, like, publicly diagnose various conservatives, as they tend to do, is I don't know, maybe a disbarrable offense, to borrow a phrase from the lawyer industry. But
I wouldn't mind it if they gave equal time to their idols.
True.
Franklin Roosevelt was a treasure trove of psychological stuff, baggage, right?
It sounds like he was.
Oh yeah. Pathological liar, chain smoker, alcoholic, philanderer. Come on, man.
Wow. He's overdue for a movie. That's what I think. Or a series, really. That would be cool. Jonathan says, does any party support any element of individual rights? Does any individual politician, except Mark's party, referring to the Capitalist Party?
No, I don't think so.
And Marilyn again, thank you. Then Jonathan says, you can't get a party without a better culture. To which Robert answers him in the super chat, you can't get a better party without a better culture, end quote. Sure, but 2 more years of ARCUK and we'll have this culture fixed. Well, that's quite a vote of confidence / pressure placed on the channel. But yeah, I mean, so ultimately, everyone wants a political band-aid, right? Like, everyone wants a certain person to be president. People talk about, can a capitalist ever be president? Are we ever going to see that? It's really about, like, is the culture going to become capitalist? Is the culture going to be individualistic? So it's less about the president educating the public, but more like the public needs to change its approach to what they want out of their politicians.
Yeah, I mean, that's true. Although a president has, I mean, you can see why it's an attractive idea, right? Because the president has a huge influence over, like, not only the laws of a country, but also what people are thinking about and talking about. And it could be amazing to have someone in there that's, even 10% clearer on individual rights, for example. That would be awesome. But then the culture point brings me down.
Yeah, for all of his faults, I think Reagan was called the great communicator for a reason. I thought for the most part, his message was probably one of the best articulated messages with respect to what Americanism is that has come along in a long time. We need somebody like that who's serious about individual rights and serious about doing some of the things that he suggested he would do.
Yeah. So I guess we can look at the Republicans now. They went through a bit of a change, I think, in the last 10 years. So like 10 years ago, you had like the whole Tea Party thing, more like 12 years ago. But yeah, when Obama was in office, the Republican Party, I mean, elements of the Republican scene said, we are capitalists. We believe in individual rights. We are like the last of the founding fathers. We are going to fight this socialist Obama. And, you know, you saw people, you saw like free market literature and free market talking points all over the place. The Republican Party would then run, like candidates would run using those talking points. Of course, the Republicans nominated the very not extreme capitalist Romney. That was like their answer to Obama. Let's find the one Republican who created Obamacare before Obama did in Massachusetts. So let's send that guy out there to run against Obama. And of course, Donald Trump was then like a game changer. Like he changed the whole culture among Republicans. He was resisted. He was resisted by never Trumpers, who turned out most of them to be, they became, well, maybe sometimes Trumpers if the left needs to be defeated. And now it's like the question is what's next? You know, in the aftermath of Trump, in the aftermath of all the chaos, all the shenanigans, who are the Republicans going to run next? Is it going to be another Trump-like nationalist, a tariff man like Trump, or is it going to be more of like someone who pays lip service to free markets and individual rights? That's what I'm wondering.
I think the populist nationalist narrative is very strong in the Republican Party right now. I think all of the main pundits and intellectuals are following it. Even intellectuals, you know, like the one you're on debated, who was a very sound thinker, a very good thinker, nonetheless are behind that, at least the nationalist narrative. They think it's appropriate. So I don't think anybody in the right is going to break away from that anytime soon. And that includes DeSantis, who I think embodies that message just as Trump did, but I think with a little bit more groundedness. What's
the nationalist message? What do you mean by that?
The nationalist message was sort of embodied in Trump's version of America First, which didn't mean you know, American interests in the sense that we mean it when we're talking about diplomacy and free exchange. But
yeah, because then we would have said America only.
Yeah, well, yeah. But the idea is America First is sort of placing America not just as a priority as we would say it. Our interests are a priority, but America First as in the competition with other states, which means which brings with it a certain kind of approach to trade. You know, high tariffs against everybody else, trying to stimulate internal trade and internal industry, manufacturing, supposedly so we're not dependent on other nations, but to build us up. It's the mercantilist idea that wealth accumulated within the country is what makes us wealthier, as opposed to free exchange and innovism that a free market brings.
Yeah, and you know, people don't like me bringing this up, but ask, why is it that the alt-right, the openly racist new right, loved Trump when he first ran and wanted him to win? And I think Richard Spencer, the guy who coined the term alt-right, he put it eloquently in an interview where he said, what we loved about Trump is that he was speaking about America not in terms of its founding principles, not in its founding documents, but a very finite, like a very particular geography with a certain group of people living on that land. That is what the ethno-nationalists like about Trump. That doesn't mean Trump himself is racist. It just means there's a reason that he appeals to these people. It's his lack of intellect. It's his lack of principles. The fact that he's anti-intellectual, doesn't know what America's founding principles are. I think they rightfully see him as signifying a move in the direction they want to move. And that's what I think he's proven to have done. Now, today, Republicans are embarrassed, many of them, or they cannot run on America's founding principles. They need to run on beating China, or that I'm assuming that's how they're going to speak. Beating China, tariffs, to protect American jobs and all of that BS. So it's going to be interesting, regulating big tech or blah, blah, blah with, to nationalize the big internet companies. So,
and conflating the globalist political vision with global exchange, so that they close their markets, we close our markets, and become more or less economically isolated, which is their freaking goal.
Yeah,
that's really interesting, Raka. You said about they're grouping Americans together not by some sense of freedom or individualism or even like founding principles, but by, we live in this geographic area. I'm like, that coming from a racist makes total sense.
And sans a good philosophy, that sort of approach ends up bringing in more and more people. Like, they don't actually know what made America great anyway. Make America great again. But what made America great? It's like, what is it? Is it individualism? No, they say, because they see the left. They see the social justice left as being, quote, individualistic, because everyone's making up a new gender, and all these subjectivists are seen as like, they see the pursuit of happiness as having failed. They see capitalism and commercialism and consumerism as basically being forces for malaise. So a lot of people, they're sort of turning away from America's founding principles, and they're kind of asking, maybe it really just is like this group of people, for one reason or another, they're more successful, the British, the Germans, the Europeans who moved to America. Maybe we need to, kind of stop it there. We don't need people moving from Mexico or from China or from anywhere that's, that's not one of, quote, our countries. So they don't understand, understand the Enlightenment, or they think they understand it and they reject it. Definitely. I think the right and Republican, or the conservative movement, I should say, the Republicans are just a party. But the conservatives have definitely morphed into this kind of materialistic mindset that kind of rejects the significance of philosophy. That's my estimation of things. I hope I turn out to be exaggerating.
No, I think you're right. I think that was highlighted in the debate with Iran, where you see the Republicans have rejected rationalism, which they equate with the left, and that means idealism separated from reality, and not ideas not grounded in reality. And they've embraced empiricism, this immediate, what we have in the moment sort of pragmatism, and in the course of that have rejected integrated philosophy. And that's a scary thing, because that's the intellectuals on the right who are doing that. Not just the everyday folks, but the intellectuals on the right are doing that.
Yeah. It's definitely not the same Republican. I keep saying Republican interchangeably with conservative. It's not the same conservative movement that it used to be. And I've pointed out, I'm not the first to point out, that conservatives, I think Michael Malice actually put it this way, conservatives are progressives driving the speed limit. And you see, what leftists were, progressives were 110 years ago, are today's Trumpian Republicans, nationalists, elevating this national identity above the rights of the individual, the interests of the community. I mean, it's everything that conservatives used to rail against. But with the passage of time, a new generation of conservatives walk American soil, and they are yesterday's progressives, I say.
So I have a question about where conservative intellectuals come from, because if it's the case that in universities it's a lot of left-leaning professors and intellectuals, like, where do the conservatives get their training to become an intellectual? Like, where do they come from? I know where Trump came from. He came from the television, but what about the rest of them?
I mean, Mark, do you have something?
I think they come from the same establishments. They've just come to different conclusions. And in some respects, I think that makes them much stronger and more independent minded than, the people who fall into lockstep with with the ideas that they've had to ingest from K through 12 all the way through college. But yeah, they've, for some reason, reasons unclear to me, they've gone another way. Some of them are left folks, like the Michael Medveds of the world and Dennis Prager, Thomas Sowell, who embraced left-wing values, and with Medved and Dennis Prager, they were Democrats. With Sowell, he was a Marxist, and then through experience, allowed the experience to change their perspectives.
Yeah, I mean, generally, former Democrats end up like becoming the new Republicans. I mean, this happened during the Cold War. I think former communists became the neocons, right? Like the neoconservatives, because they decide, they realize communism and the Soviet Union is too extreme, or it failed, or whatever made them leave that camp. They became Republicans, and their foreign policy is very altruistically motivated, and you can see the result of that with Bush's foreign policy. And yeah, more recently, we see people like Prager and Medved leaving the Democrat Party. Even more recently, we see people like Dave Rubin and other Democrats, left-leaning people, leftists, leaving, saying, "I left the left." But what are they bringing with them? They're not really bringing. They're not bringing real individualism. They're not bringing a rational philosophy to the Republican Party. They're just bringing yesterday's Democrat positions, right? And that's what we keep seeing. So we just keep seeing conservatives echoing yesterday's progressives.
Yeah, it's so sad to see somebody like Dave Rubin go over to the Republican side when he had ample opportunity with objectivists, ample interviews with objectivists like you, me, you're on, and so many others that it could have influenced him, and it makes me wonder why. What is it that the Republicans are offering? Are they offering what is it that they're touching that makes them pull people from the left to their camp as opposed to our camp?
I mean, one of the considerations is that people's values are kind of intertwined with their philosophy. So Rubin's career and his friends and his future opportunities are clearly intertwined with the Republican Party and the conservative movement and all of that. So like, what's he gonna, what should he have been so inspired by talking to objectivists that he walks away from all of it? And yes, I mean, that would be nice, but he's not a 15-year-old reading The Fountainhead, right? Like, that's why I think the like ARI and people interested in spreading objectivism, they properly see young people as the people likely to be inspired, because it's hard to get a 40-year-old guy with a career to adopt this new radical philosophy. That's how I see it.
So, but you're saying he chose popularity and wealth at the expense of integrity.
I had a bit more of a benevolent way to put it, which is like his values were tied to, his community, his friends. He met Donald Trump. He's friends with Trump Jr. I mean, that's got to be an exciting thing. If you're not yet objectivist, try to go back to, young Mark. You meet the president and he's super nice to you and your husband. In this hypothetical, you're married to a guy with the same name as you, by the way, both named Dave. It's like, again, it's like, are you supposed to be so inspired by talking to objectivists that like, but is that right? Do you think to say it's lack of integrity? I'm trying to be like,
no, it's not right, but it certainly feels like that when you have the contrast in front of you. You have the capacity to see the differences between these ideas and which is objectively better. And you choose the one that will get you the most clicks, the most follows, and the most money, as opposed to the one that's right. Now, I'm not saying that's his motivation at all. I think he was seduced by Jordan Peterson, to be honest with you. And I think there is a degree of, there is a degree of this. Once you get into a certain circle and you start meeting certain people, there's an intoxication to that sense of, I'm meeting these famous people and they like me. I could see one being a little bit overwhelmed by that and not wanting to be outside that loop. Once they're in the inner circle, it probably feels pretty devastating to be pushed out, right?
Mm-hmm. Now, one big piece of this puzzle of the enigma of Dave Rubin that needs to be mentioned is that he went on tour with Jordan Peterson. Now, Jordan Peterson is no lightweight. He's affecting many people. He's inspired many people who might have otherwise, let's say, been open to someone like Ayn Rand, or might have ended up who knows where. So Peterson is a heavy lifting intellectual in the times we live in. He's got a lot of
like actually inspiring things to say too. I mean, I've been inspired by Jordan Peterson. He's got, I mean, tremendous things to say about, how to be a mature person, especially to men, like how to be a man. And also he comes down really hard on socialists, and that's really exciting too.
Yeah, I mean, if you try to imagine life before Ayn Rand, like if you had never sort of been exposed to Rand's philosophy, and someone like Jordan Peterson comes along. Now, Rubin had been exposed to Ayn Rand's philosophy, but he goes on tour with Jordan Peterson. He's watching Peterson do his thing every night and listening to his content. And again, add in the fact that Rubin's career seems to be moving in that moving in the direction that Peterson is moving. I think, it would be very, very remarkable if someone in Rubin's position were to feel so strongly about objectivism that he becomes an objectivist. I think the goal always was to reach Rubin's audience more than Rubin himself. Although I, as much as anyone, more than anyone, thought I could actually reach Rubin himself. I was like agitating, urging him, like, come on, don't you see it? But live and learn, I guess. We got a few more super chats. Marilyn says, Mike K says Michelle Obama could run. All right. Jonathan Honig with $4.99.
She would win if
really? Ooh, yeah, that's interesting.
I think she would.
Really? I thought she's not that popular. Like, you mean?
I think she is. I think she is amongst her base, and I think she would generate quite a bit of interest outside of that base. There's not a lot of bad press about her. She's flown under the radar in that respect. So I think she would win.
Interesting. People used to say about Hillary Clinton, she's unbeatable because people they miss Bill Clinton. They were saying during the Bush years, like, I miss Bill. So as if Hillary runs, she's an easy win. And of course, Obama was the disruptor of that shoe-in. And then once Hillary Clinton was Secretary of State, I think the Benghazi situation really tainted her views. So now people see her as a face of corruption. Whereas, back in the day, Hillary was seen as like everyone's favorite candidate. Do you recall things the same way?
I do recall that there was a lot of hype about that, but I think it was a lot of hype. I think she's always been unpopular, especially with the right. She was seen as sort of Eleanor Roosevelt-ish, not the power behind the throne, the person sort of really directing things, really pushing the agendas that Bill Clinton tried to pass. And yes, certainly after Benghazi, but some of her interviews, I think, show her to be truly power lusting. I mean, she has deep ambition for this office, for the office of the presidency. And I think that should be a disqualifier for the office right off the bat if somebody wants it that badly, as she has clearly demonstrated she does. And look, I think that the more this Durham investigation goes on and the deeper they dig into Crossfire Hurricane and the more they find Hillary Clinton's complicity in trying to undermine the Trump campaign, I think even more of her corruption is going to become apparent in the next couple of years. So I don't know. I think she'll never become president, but she'll have to die to stop trying.
Seems that way. All right. Jonathan Honig says, quote, America first is racist collectivism. Certainly a lot of the people who say that phrase are racists. I don't know if America first inherently, I mean, I think I know what Jonathan means. that phrase is, it's been used definitely by people that are not individualists.
No, I mean, that's a
Jonathan,
problem with such a little tiny phrase is like you can kind of
Yeah.
insert whatever view you want into it. And
Mhm.
that's, so it's, I don't know. I don't
Yeah,
even
like
know
you
what that
said,
means.
it should be America only. Like America's government is here to protect the rights of Americans. It's not about first we take care of us and then we're going to take care of the world or interfere with the world. Jonathan, again, with $4.99 says today's biggest conservative stars, Ted Cruz, Candace Owens, JD Vance, all used to be never Trump. They went where the money and power was. I don't know who JD is. I would doubt that Candace Owens was a never Trumper because she's so young, right? Wasn't she like barely out of high school when Trump first started running? So are you sure about that, Jonathan?
I don't know if she was a never Trumper either, but I don't know. I'm not sure about that, but they're certainly now darlings of the Republican Party.
Yeah. Now, Candace Owens, I think her sort of introduction to the world, she called herself Red Pill Black. She's red pilled, like she took the red pill black because she's not.
And then she joined up with Charlie Kirk. And I think that's what really put her over the top.
Yeah. Now, Charlie Kirk himself, it could be the topic of a full episode. He was a Yaron Brook fan back in the day. Like he was one of these Republican young conservatives who was into the Tea Party and all that, individual rights language. And then Trump happened. All right. We got Robert with $5 saying Jordan Peterson's popularity is largely due to his rules and aphorisms. Too bad about his philosophy. Something I'll mention on today's Life on Earth. And there was the recent Harry Binswanger TV episode on this channel is about Jordan Peterson. It's, I think, performing quite well and for good reason. So everyone check that out if you haven't. It's good to get like a very seasoned, a very advanced objectivist to talk about contemporary influential intellectuals. I think that's exactly the type of content that I like and that many of you probably like as well, and the world can use. All right. We covered the upcoming election season and some of more. One more thing is it's been roughly a year, I guess, since it occurred to me I could leave California. I think that's around this time last year. Mark, any update with you? Are you thinking about it or what?
I'm still thinking about it. We made an offer on a place in Tennessee,
wow,
in Nashville, but there were 9 offers on that same house that very same day probably from people from California and in the industry moving out there. So we're in a holding pattern right now, trying to figure out exactly where we want to stay, but it's got to be a place that has a pretty good state constitution, very little, and asks very little of us while we're there so that we can, live our lives the way we see fit.
That's amazing. You made an offer on a house. That is no joke. That is no empty rhetoric. All right. Well, there's some real estate in Austin looks very promising in case you're thinking about investing or living somewhere that's not Nashville. And Amanda, are you moving or are you already in a fairly free state? I don't actually know where you live, and you don't need to tell us.
Okay, I'm in California, and I don't like it
that's
here.
right. Yeah.
I want to get out.
Yeah. So time to get out.
I go to Las Vegas, by the way.
Okay. Back to Vegas. Is that where you're from?
No, it's just where I went to school. I loved it there. Yeah. Las Vegas is it's like the anti-Europe. It's a testament to the new, right? In Europe, we're just so excited. They're so excited about like finding old stuff underneath the old stuff that's underneath the really old stuff. And in Las Vegas, something's 5 years old. They put dynamite in it and blow it up and then put something new there. And that's what I love about Vegas.
Yeah, it is like the antithesis of the old world. Interesting. I thought about Vegas. That was the first place that occurred to me to go. Like I wasn't ready to contemplate moving that far from California. So first I thought of Vegas, then I expanded my horizons a bit. Jonathan Honig with $4.99 says she ran a liberal blog. Oh, I think talking about Candace Owens. She ran a liberal blog, wrote that she launched an unofficial full-scale investigation into the batshit crazy antics of the Republican Tea Party. Are you talking about Candace Owens? There, Jonathan, but would not shock me if that's what she said. But Yes, this is one of those times it would help to let us know who you're actually talking about. Now, this happens a lot. People super chat or they comment and they're responding to something that someone said at that very moment, and we only see it 15 minutes later. He says, yes. He could be saying like, yes, it would be nice for you to move to Austin. Or he could be saying, yes, that was Candace Owens.
Well, but I mean, she was red pilled. So, I mean, she could have started off there and then seen the Matrix.
Red pill black. That's right. And Roland says, my thoughts exactly on Vegas. Thank you for the super chat.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Vegas, baby.
We all know who we're going to party with if Amanda moves to Vegas,
just like
and we travel.
Prepare to feel like you're a rotisserie chicken in the summertime, though. So if you aren't ready for that, don't go to Vegas. But if you want Christmas lights all year round and to feel like the world is your playground, go to Vegas.
I like that. All right. Well, everybody, where should Amanda move or where should Mark move is really the question. Let us know in the comments. Please leave a like on this video and subscribe if you're not. There's a good chance we're going to open up memberships feature on this channel very soon. So might want to keep an eye out for that. There's going to be a join button that'll enable you to access new emojis that you can post, and you'll have a special green name, maybe some exclusive content. You're going to love it. Trust me on that. All right. Coming up today at 7 p.m. UK time, it's Enjoy Parenting with Lisa Van Dam and Kyle Steele. They're going to talk about the, quote, conflict at the park. What's that all about?
I've been there. Conflict at the park. Yeah.
Is this like oh, okay. I was like, is there something in the news? Or is it sounds like the kids had a fight or something?
Yeah, it sounds like it's something in the child news all the time. You know, you're at the park, you meet new kids or suddenly friends, and then there's a conflict.
Yeah. Now, underrated moment in the Pellegrino debate saga is with Zuby. Zuby says they were debating abortion, and Zuby says, "Are you a dad?" And Mark says, "Yeah." And Zuby says, like, I can't believe you can be a dad and still not be upset by something like abortion and by killing a fetus. And Mark says, well, I'm a stepdad. Underrated.
Oh, that's brilliant.
Yeah. And it was so organic too. Like it flew right by. Like, yeah. All right. So that's coming up.
Oh.
This is the greatest moment since my glitching.
That's brilliant.
I love it that like you think that you're funny. That's amazing. That's the best position to be in.
I would have thought that was tragic if I actually, saw what was coming out of my mouth at the moment, but it's great. Tragedy becomes comedy a few months later.
Yeah, and I think Zuby was in town a few days ago. Someone on social media posted him he was at Zilker Park. Wow, imagine you could be hanging out with Zuby at the park if you would live here. Cool. Yeah, sold or what? All right. So that's at 7 p.m. UK time. Enjoy Parenting. Then at 10 p.m. UK time, it's Life on Earth with Robert and Amy Nasser. They're going to be talking about aphorisms, fast food philosophy, and philosophy misspelled with an F. Why? Watch and find out. All right, everybody.
Because going through the drive-thru is amazing. That's why there's an aphorism for you.
Is it amazing, or are you?
Oh, yes, it is.
Even at night when you have to wait 45 minutes.
Where are you going? Just go to McDonald's. It's like 1 minute from the time you order to when you get your food. It's always exactly what you wanted.
I do not go to McDonald's.
One of you is getting paid by McDonald's. I'm a Taco Bell guy. If I'm going to get something to eat late at night, it's all about Taco Bell. The other night, they just keep closing early. Like they just close whatever time they want. So after waiting in line to get to the speaker section, they go, all right, we're only taking mobile orders now. So I'm already in line. So now my car is rolling to the window and I'm downloading the Taco Bell app and trying to order it. And it's too late to order. And the lady at the window is just like, okay, what did you want to get? She just gave me free food.
She let you ring your bell at the bell. That's great.
Thank you.
I love the Taco Bell too.
Yes. Now she's going to be fired. I'm sorry to say if they see this episode, but that's the sacrifice I'm willing to make.
We used to call it toxic smell, but that's not very nice because it's amazing.
As far as fast food goes, I think Taco Bell is my favorite, but maybe not. Maybe
I do El Pollo Loco. If I'm going to go that route, I do El
That's
Pollo
a good
Loco.
one too. The green sauce there, you got to get extra.
Oh yeah, green sauce is great.
I know.
And so is their creamy cilantro dressing. If you get their salad, you put that creamy cilantro dressing. It's to die for.
Yeah.
I don't know if I ever had that, but it reminds me of El Palo Armando's from Breaking Bad.
That's true.
Did you know that the actual house from Breaking Bad, some lady lives there. She put up a big fence around it, like a see-through fence, and she sits around pissed off. If anyone drives by and takes a picture of the house, she takes a picture of the license plate and calls the police right away. So like she's dedicated her life to like chasing away tourists rather than, I don't know, charging them money to take a picture or, I don't know, not living there. She wants to live in that house and fight this never-ending uphill battle on quicksand. God.
That is almost as bad as saying, well, I'm a stepdad.
True. Jonathan Honig with $4.99 says Zanku chicken. All I can say is if you think their hummus and tahini, or not even tahini, if you think their hummus tastes remotely acceptable, you are not from the Middle
but you're
East.
cheating. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. You came from the Middle East, and the hummus there is on a whole different level. Yeah. But Zanku chicken is pretty cool too. There used to be a place called Kookaroo that was amazing, and it shut down. But Kookaroo was great.
I think kukuriku is the Israeli way to say cockle-doodle-doo as a chicken. So maybe it's a Mexican thing too or something. I don't know. Or Middle Eastern sounds like. Anyway. Okay. Anyway, the show ended 15 minutes ago, actually. We're not even live on the air anymore. I don't know. I'm kidding.
Oh, good.
All right.
No.
Thank you for joining us today. Thank you, guys. It was great to talk politics and more. We'll be back. The Daily Objective back here tomorrow. Philosophy Friday. That's going to be a good episode. Thank you all. And goodbye.